Hello, I'm Renee Varnador, and this is Soul Portal Journeys. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're talking about Venus and when she's finally going to come out of retrograde, which is April 12th, 2025. So, we're going to talk about where she's been and where she goes, we can go within our own lives. So, she had a rebirth moment. We might have had a rebirth moment. There were a lot of eclipses happening during her journey. So let's see where she was. And this is an opportunity for us to reflect on where we might have gone during this Venus retrograde. So here are the phases according to Adam Gainsbourg, who is a brilliant astrologer who wrote the book The Light of Venus. And he worked with a lot of clients and looking at their Venus phase. What phase was Venus in when you were born? Because that relates to how you move forward as the divine feminine. So this is like your model of the divine feminine has to do with your Venus phase. And so um get a reading from an astrologer like me. Um, any astrologer worth their salt would understand what's going on with the Venus phase and how that translates into humans. And Venus at the beginning of the year popped into wholeness phase, and when you come into wholeness phase, you realize that the divine feminine and the divine masculine and the human feminine and the human masculine, you're like integrating all of that stuff, and you're just finding more and more parts of yourself as you work through sacred union and spiritual integration. And on March 1st, Venus came to the wholeness phase came into a completion. And I know around March 1st, I went, wow, I've been teaching Sacred Union for a long time. And now I really feel like, oh, boom, yeah, I understand it. And so that was like a completion of that process for me. And it was the same day that Venus started her retrograde. So that just kind of helped me get into this whole contemplation, reflection on my values, which is Venus is all about. She's also about money and abundance. And we've had, boom, the stock market's going crazy all over the world right now. Not surprising with a lot of energy happening in Aries, where people just go, yep, I'm going to do this. And boom, lots of rash decisions happening at the moment as I'm filming this on April 7th. But we're looking now at Venus went through her transition phase until she got to the inception point. And a lot of times for me, a way I experience it is boom, light going right into my heart. And it's usually light from a star, light from the sun and the moon, light from a planet, light from a cosmic point. So there's all kinds of things that galactic astrologers in particular track. And I'm a galactic anchor, so I can help you anchor in some of that. Woo! If you're one of the people that's kind of less grounded when you start hearing about, yeah, we can go visit a star, which we can, but I like to make sure everybody is grounded first before we go. So that's why I'm a galactic anchor, helping spiritual seekers and trailblazers open from within their own heart. And so what's happening at Venus's gestation phase is that we realize that there is life, a new life within us that we are can then emerge from and birth. So we're birthing this. It's emerging from us, from within our own hearts. We're creating. So that's what I've experienced during this Venus retrograde, going through transition, inception, gestation, birth, emergence. We're in a emergence as I'm filming this on April 7th. We're about to get into fullness, because you don't want to be in emergence like forever, even though it may be really nice, it may be really awful, depending on your perspective and your attitude about the cosmic forces and change and surrender. But we are going to be in the fullness phase now for 51 days. And what does that mean? That means that we can just really feel more of who we are, the fullness of what we've just birthed, and how we can bring it into the world more and more and more. Like work doing our daily life tasks that help us bring into fruition that which happened on a spiritual level that we might not be able to hold onto. um, at one dimension of ourselves, this happened. At another dimension of ourselves, we may like go, I don't know, I forget, what was that, what was I supposed to do? So that it takes what it takes, and it takes a while to bring these ahas into our daily life. So what does the chart look like when Venus finally gets out of retrograde and goes into her fullness stage? A lot of times in retrograde, Venus will bring us people in our lives that are just like, what? And because one of the things Venus does is she helps us with our relationships. She helps us with our money. She helps us with all of those kinds of things. So we might be able to make a decision about where we're going to put our money and that kind of thing. So Venus reevaluating our values. Here's the chart. And the question during the fullness phase is, what are you embodying? So you got this big aha that just felt like it was happening in another dimension, because it probably was. And you got to tune into that for a second and get some clarity. How do you then embody it so it's part of your daily life? Me, I just add whatever it is to my morning meditation practices. So you do you. You know, you might have a journaling practice, you might have an evening meditation practice. Whatever you do, you add the embodiment phase to it. And if you need help with that, that's what I teach over in my Patreon group. I'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I want to tell you more about Venus and where she is. So there's a lot of people told me they can't see the cursor in the replays. So there is a big golden star right by Venus, that little blue sign of the woman, Venus. And you can see that right on the other side of that star, that golden line, is a little star called Merkab. And you can see that on the other side of Venus, there is Saturn. So she is conjunct Saturn. So this is good, because if we're perceiving really stuff on a spiritual level, okay, having Saturn right there helping us with structure. How do we structure these ideas? How do we bring them into form? How do we bring them out in the world? Saturn is right there helping us do it. So this is a good time to help us embody this fullness, because Saturn's right there next to Venus when she pops out of retrograde. She's also right by the North Node, and the North Node helps us see or re-see or tap into our purpose, because our purpose keeps evolving as we create more. We can ask the question, okay, do I want to continue creating this, or do I want to create something different? What is being born within me? So right now, because Venus went through a rebirth phase, we might be actually moving towards, is this still aligned for me now that I've had this rebirth experience? Also, Mercury is right there, the planet that helps us with our communication. And Mercury got out of retrograde before Venus. Today, Mercury is still in retrograde, going out today. So by the time you hear this, Mercury might be out of retrograde. So that would be nice. But Mercury is conjunct an amazing star called Sheet. So we've got Sheet on one side of Pisces and Merkab on the other side of Venus, and Neptune just crossed over into Aries, which is part of this volatility in the stock markets around the world. And Neptune is also on Sheet. So that's interesting. We've got Mercury and Neptune on each side of this amazing star that is in my next slide Here we go. The great square of Pegasus. We've been talking about it throughout the whole retrograde. When I saw this, and I saw that at each phase of Venus's retrograde journey, these stars were playing up. Okay. She went into retrograde at this point where the star Algenib is. Okay. So the degree of Algenib is when Venus went into retrograde. Mercury went into retrograde then too. So this star is about our creative vision. So that's part of what was coming up for us on the higher layers. Maybe you had some, daily life stuff with relationships and money and all of that. But if you tune into what's happening at the level of the stars and what they're helping us with, it makes more sense what this whole Venus retrograde was about. So Saturn was on the star Merkab. You can see how close Saturn and Venus are, and Saturn just moved away. By the 12th, Saturn will have moved away from Merkab, but right now Saturn's on Merkab, and what Merkab does is it helps us with our psychic gifts and helps us develop them in the best way possible, so that we say, is this for me? Yes or no? Is this for me? Yes or no? And we either get a whoa, full body yes, or we get a meh, or we get a and we learn to tune into our intuition that way as we're making choices and decisions. So that's kind of an ongoing quickie. But really, we can develop our clairvoyance, our clairaudience, our clairsentience. And if you want to do that, I have a slide to show you all about that in a minute. But Neptune and Mercury are both conjunct this star over here, which is Sheet. And Neptune has been on Sheet for most of the year, kind of kind of moved away from it a little bit and came back. And last year too. So Neptune's been on this star a lot, and what this star helps us do is open our crown chakra. And when we open our crown chakra, we can receive the information from these stars better, because we're getting billions of bits of information coming to us, streaming to us. And how do we know? We got a flash of light. Well, how do we know what it means? Well, look at the sky. What were the stars? What were the stars doing? So that's one of the things that galactic astrologers can help us figure out. So this is all happening. Woohoo! This is a picture of Merkab, some beautiful, beautiful star, and Venus is going to be right conjunct Merkab at the very end of her retrograde. So she went from here to here. She's going to, so she's been around. Now, what happens when you have the great square of Pegasus? This is a manifesting square. Now, if you look at your astrology chart and you've had an astrology reading, you look at the red lines, the squares, and you're like, oh no, what I wanted to do is not going to work out. There's conflict with this person, blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do? But once you resolve that conflict, or once you say, I'm going to take a higher view of that conflict, then you're looking at, okay, well, what do I have going on, and what does the other person have going on in the sky right now? What's going on with the cosmic forces? And what's happening right now is that we have a chance of manifesting squares. So squares can be like conflict, but conflict helps us learn. And when we learn something, we want to bring it into the earth plane, right? To help everybody else and ourselves. And our life gets better when we do that, when we're actually serving the whole and realizing we're part of the unity, not some separated little self crying over spilled milk, which I've done a lot of. Most of us have. It's okay. We're all human right now. But we're manifesting what is emerging and rebirthing from within us. And so this square is helping us. Now, Pegasus is the flying horse. Like, we're soaring in Pegasus. It's amazing. And this over here is helping us ground in. It's like Andromeda was tied to a rock and she frees herself. She's also the hero Perseus in the story. And so this is like we were bound, okay? And now we opened our crown chakra. We developed our psychic gifts. We've opened into our creative vision. So, and you can, any order, you can start at any point and tell that story about what just happened. And when Venus, and everybody's going to have a different answer because we're all unique about how this plays out in our daily lives, right? But we all have this great manifesting square of Pegasus, and we all went through the Venus phases. So awesome. So if you want to know how to really tap into your heart and what's going on, I have a group over in Patreon. Now there's a Patreon free part where you just see my videos for free without, whatever else gets tacked onto them. And there's a couple handouts that go along with some of the video topics and stuff. So it's all my free stuff. But if you want to connect with me and you want to connect with people who are spiritual seekers or spiritual trailblazers who really want to see at the higher perspectives, okay, then I have a group that meets called Intuitives, and it's whatever level of intuition you're working with, this can help. And our next meeting is April 21st, and we're going to be we're looking at the second dimension. If you're like, what the heck? You'd kind of be jumping in, but there are videos in my Soul Portal Journeys community that's free. Then you can go to the multi-dimensional things and say, oh, okay, I get what she's talking about now. Yeah, we're all multidimensional. Oh, okay, I get it. And so we're at the second dimension, which is like, hello, did you know that we are surrounded? What we are surrounded by and what is helping us is amazing. We're walking through the divine all the time. We just need to tune into it. So that's a little peek into what we're going to talk about when we talk about the second dimension on April 21st together. And a lot of these people have been working with me for a long time, and some people are brand new, and we just love who's coming in. Just some really amazing people. So we're like, there's unseen realms supporting us, archangels are supporting us, the elementals are supporting us. We're going to tap into fire, water, earth, air, and ether in their Aramaic names. And that was the language that Jesus and Mary Magdalene spoke when they were on this planet helping us. Powerful Aramaic seed words for the elements we're going to work on this. And there is a word for the spirit that moves through. There's like a combination, a sacred union of all of these four elements. And there's a sacred Aramaic word for that we're going to be working with that helps us step more fully into the loving creative flow. I really tuned into that creative loving flow at the eclipse and at the movement of Neptune. Neptune was just at its last 2959 last degree of the zodiac, when I really felt that that's what it's all about for me anyway, is this loving creative flow, that whatever I do, whatever I decide, whatever is bringing me joy and passion to create on the earth plane, I'm doing it with loving creative flow. So that was my experience at that point. So we always do a powerful guided meditation and then a sharing during these. And we also, bonus, you get the ceremony part of the new moon ceremony. And I always post new moon and what's going on in the new moon. But if you want to join us for the ceremony, join the Intuitives group. So check it out. Love and blessings during this time. Do a little reflection. What's been going on for you since March 1st? And Venus, you still have time. If you're watching this later than the 12th, you still have time. There's 2 weeks after Venus leaves retrograde that she's in her shadow, and that we can still reflect on all of these phases that she's been in. And then boom, it's on to something else, because this is a power-packed year of new beginnings. And the more we learn how to handle what is old and completing and what is new, those amazing alpha omega moments this year, the more we learn how to deal with them and tune into them, the more we're going to be able to bring through for ourselves and to change our lives and to change and to help other people find their own answers to their own questions from within their own being. So love and blessings. Bye bye.